So this post went absolutely viral on Reddit, and it is from a professor that was shocked to see that one of her students didn't know when the Holocaust happened. Didn't know the year, didn't know if it was World War One or World War Two, and apparently this completely demoralized the professor, saying that I had assumed going into teaching that these people had roughly the same knowledge I did at their age. Mistake. The horror of discovering that they have all grown up stunted at a first or second grade level of understanding about the world is just too much for me. This whole generation is too lost, too stunted, too hopeless. They are completely lacking any curiosity about the world at all. She had no follow-up questions at all for me. She did not ask when did the Holocaust actually happen after I told her she was wrong. She doesn't care. None of them care about anything. Right, so, I found this to be very interestingly displayed by the streamer Mizu in the United Kingdom. So this was an individual that was doing prank streams by going into people's houses, hijacking trains, trying to steal people's dogs, like a completely socially unacceptable behavior. But when he went on the television and he was in a talk show, he didn't mind doing that, but what he did mind was being called a racist. Right, so it did show that this individual actually did have a moral framework. It's just that it was very different the moral framework that I grew up with. Like, when I grew up with the moral framework was do not do unto others what you would not like to be done unto yourself. But I guess, like, his moral framework is don't be racist. The progressive mindset, which means that as long as you're doing something bad, but you're doing it to everyone, and you do not discriminate based on race, gender, or sexual orientation, then it's probably fine. This is what I got from that interview. Piers Morgan pointed out, well, you did this awful prank, and the person was Jewish, and Mizu went like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, like, I'm not a racist. I prank everyone. And that is, like, the new mentality. That is the anti-racist morality that is being taught through media, through the schooling system, through social media's terms of service. Like, this is what you want kids to know. Like, the most important thing in a society, like, the number one thing, do not be racist, right? So, if that is the number one thing, and it's not, do not do to others what you want, like, done upon yourself, then you're going to have kids that have a completely different mentality. So, in this situation, as we saw with Mizu, like, being socially unacceptable is fine as long as you're not a racist. But what's also interesting is that if you look at the same messaging, which comes through kids' shows, cartoons, it's a very consumeristic message, where, representation is important. So you should only care about other people who look like you, right? So, like, for example, if we're talking about people who lived before we were even born, and they do not look like her, like in this situation, this is I guess like a lady from a modern school, right? Like, people don't look like her. Why would she care? I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, that doesn't mean that she would want it to happen or anything like that. But, like, the question is, why would she care? It's like it happened in the past, long ago. They didn't make a Netflix movie about it where she felt represented, so why would she watch it? Right? Representation matters. So, if it's that important, like I used to think, relatability matters. Like, yeah, we're all human beings. We all aren't separated by, like, these ideological divisions. No, like, we're all in this together. So, yeah, when it happens to someone else, you should have empathy. But now the mentality is different. Now the mentality, well, you have, like, certain identities that society ascribes to you. And unless you see other people with the same identities like you on television, then why do you care? Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't this, like, the progressive mindset? Now, I'm not saying that it's explicitly stated, but if you look at the principles and what is being parroted over and over and over again, and you draw the conclusions by yourself without any help or guidance, isn't this what's being concluded? Because apparently, like the Little Mermaid, well, she has to be black for representation. Why? Because with representation, the people who identify as the new character, like a mirror, like looking through a mirror, it creates a connection. So the question is, like, well, what happens without that connection then? Like, I do not believe that this is the case. This is not my ideology, by the way. Like, I think that if you see Sailor Moon, which is a Japanese superhero, and you happen to be black, you can, even a guy, you can still identify with her struggle, you can still like that cartoon, you can still find relatability in that. But the progressive mindset, the more, no, it's like, unless Sailor Moon is a black man, how can an audience member, which also happens to be a black man, feel represented by it? Right? Like, representation is very important. Otherwise, you can't empathize. So, yeah, with this mindset, I'm not surprised that this is the end result. That this is what you're going to have the kids of the new generation care about. It's like, well, if it doesn't affect me, it doesn't represent me, it's not happening now, why would I care? But secondly, and this is more importantly, the hedonistic aspect, right? So, like, life is all about pleasure. Life is all about self-gratification. I mean, we are at the point where if a person is too obese to get in a Boeing airplane, then the airplane industry needs to start making bigger Boeings. Like, it's even unthinkable to suggest that maybe the influencer should start losing weight. Right? Like the entire society needs to change in order to fit the individual. The individual doesn't have to put any more of an effort. These are the principles from TikTok, which, again, exist because of the terms of service on TikTok. Because if I go on TikTok and I start shaming these people for saying these things, I would become very popular, I would become viral, and then I would get banned. Because this is why you even have this culture. It's because the terms of service on social media protect these cultures, right? Like normal average people do not agree with these takes. But unfortunately, normal average people also have jobs. So their children are educated by these social medias with these terms of service, and it actually ends up shocking professors. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how to fix it. They just like look at these children, which apparently have no moral framework, very little education about history. Like, I'm willing to bet that if you ask this girl about the LGBTs and the genders and stuff, like, she would immediately talk about the systemic racists and the heteronormative discrimination. Like she's probably an expert in that. But unfortunately, when it comes to actual history, she doesn't know very much. It is what it is, you know, but this is the society that you have created, and of course it's going to have some consequences. I understand that people don't like religion and they do not believe that the religion values are important, but I have to wonder, what are you replacing them with? The Soviet Union was one of the first atheistic states. Like, atheism was imposed by the government. And even they realized that, oh shit, we need some principles, and they created the, I think it's something like the Soviet Worker. It was a guidebook based on like how actual Soviet people should behave. It was inspired by the Ten Commandments, believe it or not, but it had several others. And it was like a moral framework that would say, okay, well, you as a citizen, you have these types of obligations. This is how you need to behave in society. I don't think that progressives have anything like that. So when you have children that try to learn how to behave, well, they listen to the media. They listen to social media especially. They look at their cartoons. They look at what is it? You know, what do they get? What are the principles? I remember when I watched Disney Lion King, there is that scene where the monkey, which plays the role of the wise mentor, finds Simba. And he's trying to convince Simba that he should go back and ascend to the throne because that is his heritage. Now, Simba says, yeah, I understand that my uncle killed my dad, but that's in the past. I want to live life now. I don't want to seek any trouble. So the wise mentor hits him in the head. And Simba gets angry. And the mentor says, well, why are you angry? That hit is in the past. Why do you care? Right? So, like, you had, like, these moral frameworks baked into the cartoons, and these moral frameworks weren't necessarily life-changing or something that was being shoved down the viewer's throat, but it were like little snippets like that made the child who watched the cartoon think and understand, okay, so like what happened in the past is important for the way things are today. We don't get that with modern cartoons. I mean, I tried to watch them. The only thing they talk about is social justice, discrimination, blah, 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 blah. But they do not talk about values outside of social justice, right? They do not talk about the values that may necessarily not fit in the ideology, but they're very important for a member of society to have. Like, for instance, there's a viral video, I think it's in Canada, where a guy is getting stabbed in a train. The train is filled with people. No one is going to help. And I would want to know, like, part of woke ideology, how it would justify that anyone even should help. Because we saw what happened in the United States when someone helped, right? You become breaking news on CNN, and then the entire country is talking about what you did. But it is what it is. I mean, this is the society that is being created. I hope that when the people who are creating this society, when they get old, they will not be disappointed about what they created, because it does have interesting consequences. Some of them may be unforeseen. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.